And what the heck is face base? Don't type face base. Anyway, so we are going to be starting out with a session 0, as you all know, which essentially just means we're going to not have any. I mean, there's not going to be role play from a it's in the current timeline perspective. I mean, you guys can role play all you want with your backstories to try to kind of get those together. I suggest that as Jake and Gilbert already know.
You should call me Gilbert.
I know. Oh crap! It's still the same on my screen.
No.
That's funny. Oh, by the way, as Non knows, obviously, I will put your character names on Skype under your head, and I will probably call you that from now on, only because my memory sucks that much, and it helps me keep track of you in the game, and I hope you aren't offended by that.
Let me rephrase that. He'll either call you your name or a very bastardized version of your name.
Well, that was only you because, well, whatever. Anyway. What I want to do first of all, since we have a weird homebrew world that we're going to get into in a minute, what I want to do first is to kind of, Fred's gone again, but we're not going to worry about that right now, is to kind of figure out who we all are. I know a few of you, but not all of you, and those of you don't know the rest. And Fred's back. And
got it.
Wesley, I'm going to go from kind of left to right and then down based off of what's on my screen. So, Wesley, what are you? I mean, who are you? Not the character, just, IL.
Well, I am a computer tech engineer. I specialize in network security. My main job is securing a bank every day and helping their tellers, who happen to be the clueless ones I was talking about earlier, if that makes you feel good about your money.
Nice.
My main hobby and most of my time is spent with my fiance ballroom dancing as we compete.
Wow, you compete?
Oh. Yes.
Nicely done. Dexterity check passed. Okay. Nicely. Okay. Long walks on the beach and ballroom dancing. Brock Johnson.
Yeah, I'm out of Nebraska. I'm full-time military at the moment, so I actually teach at a leadership school, teach leadership, discipline, physical fitness, combat tactics, stuff like that. So some of my hobbies are I like sports. I like shooting shit, blowing shit up. Nothing wrong with playing a little D&D here because you can do both of that in this, so it's pretty legit.
There you go. No permits.
I like the blowing.
You're my kind of guy.
Jason, which I almost said Jake just now.
Okay. I'm in Austin, Texas. My name is Jason Pointer. I am a storage network admin for healthcare organizations that span not quite the globe, but the United States anyways. I'm pretty boring. I
always include D&D.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I play a bunch of games. A lot of video games and stuff like that. Do video compilations, apparently. And just hanging out with friends, doing stuff in Austin.
Sweet.
Austin's weird.
Yeah. Fred.
From Dallas, Texas. I just graduated recently with a biology and criminology double major. Gonna go for my master's in genetics. I play a lot of video games and just started playing D&D not too long ago, but
Sweet.
It's pretty fun so far.
Yeah. Hopefully we can keep that trend up. Monsieur Gilbert, which is not your name, but
once again,
still there. Okay, Jan. Last time for a long time, but Jan.
Okay, so my name is Jan Gagnon. I'm your neighbor from the north. I'm also full-time military. Been for the last 12 years. And now my wife's deployed in Kuwait because she's in the military too. And play D&D, video games. Right now I'm pretty much Mr. Mom anyway. Take care of everything around the house because the wife's gone. And yeah, that's pretty much it. From 7 p.m. and after, it's my time. It's Daddy's time.
There you go. Shane.
I work on the Google Fiber project here in Kansas City. I'm a master technician in the installation field. I technically work for ITC Corporation, which is actually a pretty cool place to be. I've been playing D&D off and on since I was 12 years old, and I play guitar, and I'm in a competitive pool. I guess you would say a league if you want to, but we're going to nationals at this point in time, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Nice. Well, I'll save the best for last, so I'm going to go before James Moore. I grew up in Texas. Oddly enough, we have a lot of Texas going on here, or at least previous Texas too. Grew up in Texas and been in Kansas City for about 15 years. We all play, I play a lot of video games. I do a bunch of D&D. I've done just about everything under the sun for a living. If you name it, I probably did something close to it, which has been fun. But right now, I'm just having fun getting this campaign together mostly, and taking care of this new house I built, bought, which is also a pain in the ass. And Miss Tori.
Hi, I'm Tori. I was born in Texas. Grew up in New York, moved to Boston. I work for a children's hospital, which is totally non-tech related. I recently started D&D. Haven't been playing for very long, but super into it. Video games, yeah, of course. I mean, who in our age doesn't? And you'll figure out pretty quick I can be evil.
I was about to say, if you were not going to mention it, I was about to say that you're evil. So
I was going to say,
we're all good.
For the people that have played with me before and those that haven't, I'm actually good cop here. Also, before you let the Tories I haven't played for very long comment set any sort of standard to her dealing, I think she knows more of the rule set than me by now. I tend to fly by the seat of my pants as I'm more of a narrative, bigger scope storyteller, type, and she is the opposite, which is why I think we will be able to put together a heck of a campaign for you.
As you can tell, he talks good.
I done talk good. Lest I go back to my text. Anyway, let's not get everybody in Texas. Yet. Okay, getting to know the world. This is kind of a big thing, / not big thing. Tori was telling me that I'm spending way too much time on stuff that you guys aren't going to really care about in game, but whatever. I had fun making it. So, where should I start, Tori? At the beginning?
At the end.
Yep, creation.
Once upon a time.
No, like literal creation.
Yeah, the world creation. Let's start prior to the world creation. And a quasi-peaceful planet known as Terra, that some of you might have heard of before. They doing their thing, magic, was kind of the order of the day, and so technology didn't really kind of evolve all that much. But then, little did they know, they were just a tiny little rim world, circling a fairly large solar system, when some of their resources were, noticed by a very advanced, technologically speaking, alien race who decided to take said resources by force, as they often do in these situations. And so they came in full force and just attacked with their space fleets, well advanced weaponry, and Terra stood no chance. On the ground they used their magic and they were able to win a few battles that way, but in the air they were just being bombarded. And so they got the great council together, the council of all of the races of man, who decided to bring all of the magic they had to bear and come together, and they created these vessels that could be flown via magical protection, etc., in the cold reaches of space, and were able to actually rout the alien forces mostly by surprise. They had no clue that they were going to be able to do this, and so they buggered on home. They knew that all they were going to do was bring back reinforcements, and so they decided to take a much more drastic course of action. They began devising and developing a massive metal and earthen sphere in space. And those same mages that created the vessels that were able to fight off the aliens created this massive sphere out in space. And when they were almost done, they began transporting just gargantuan swaths of land and ocean, mountains, their own atmosphere into this sphere, which was, what did we say, was a quarter of the size of their planet, roughly?
Yep.
Something like that. And so they transported everything needed for life on their planet into this hollow shell. And then they got a team of dragonborn sorcerers together to create what they called the World Fire. They picked up Mount Grochi, which was the largest mountain on their planet at the time, in one piece and suspended it in the center of this planet. And 500 sorcerers got together and created a ball of fire large enough and hot enough to warm the inner surface of this planetoid-sized sphere, and attached it to Mount Grochi, to where now, as this spins in the center of the planet, and as this planet spins around it, it creates sort of a false day-night perspective, and it also heats the planet. And so then they began transporting as many animals and people as they thought they could, at the inception of the planet, viably keep alive. And unfortunately for the party, or for the future party, there were some, bleeding hearts on the Great Council. A few druids and some elven kind who decided that all life was precious, and you can't just stop at bringing the nice beasties into the new planet. So they brought all the beasties, including a few eggs from each of the dragon tribes. And so most of the sort of fantasy tropes that you know and love, as far as monsters and beasts, etc., are going to be here too. In fact, they transported such large amounts of land in one piece that some things they didn't even want to bring along with them came along just fine. Very large graveyards. We all know what comes along with those. So, that's the planet in a nutshell. It is now 1,000 years after the Project OVA was completed. OVA is the name of the planet, by the way. And the original colonists were essentially made up of either very high-ranking officials, royalty, or people who won a lottery for the rest of the seats. People who had certain professions or magical abilities. And then they were all one, and they landed in a northern peninsula known as Eden. They didn't realize, though, that the world fire was going to heat up the poles a little more than they thought it was going to, and so the original colony died off fairly quickly, and they had to move south into a much larger area of land now known as New Eden. I'll show you guys the sort of generic main map later on. But and since then, in the last 1,000 years, their mistake of bringing dragons aboard their planet and certain other highly ferocious and on this planet faster breeding animals cost them dearly, and mankind was almost obliterated a few different times, which has kept his population in check and destroyed most all of the technology that they brought over with them. You'll still find sort of bits and pieces of the technology used to build this world and the technology that they would have had on hand. But most of it is either completely non-working, or it's been kind of cobbled together, sometimes to do a thing it wasn't originally intended to do, and sometimes just to do it very poorly. So there are what we're calling steampunk elements in the game. There are certain things that will be around that you can use. Generally, they'll have an equivalent in the player's handbook or GMG as far as balance goes, but they're mostly a different flavor in the world. And what else, Tori? What was the... in the last 1,000 years, after all of that havoc was reached, as mankind generally does, political factions started to form. Certain races that were too proud to live amongst the other races decided they wanted to go ahead and create their own again. And so the dwarves, partly due to pride, but also due to their desire to live under a mountain, decided to go off and make their own thing. The drow did the same. There are fairly large plots of land that, what was it, who was up north? Tori, do you remember?
All the way up.
Yep.
Orcs.
What?
Orcs.
There are orcs, but then even further.
Tieflings.
Tieflings, yes. The tieflings have a small patch of land to themselves. But most of this, like your humans, your elves, your half-elves, gnomes, halflings, those guys, they actually did fairly well with one another, surprisingly, this time. And so most of those lands are shared amongst them. Most of the land is shared amongst them. But there are political factions that have cropped up that you'll find out about soon enough. Also, let's see, the Dragonborn is one flavor change that is a kind of a large one. As Jake and Gilbert know, dang it, that's not their name. As Jason and Jan know, Dragonborn did not exist on Terra. That wasn't an existent race, and they do exist on this planet for one reason. When everything went south with the dragons and mankind was being torn to shreds, they decided to fight fire with fire, and using the technology that they at the time had, the mages devised these devices that they would implant into a person at a certain age, generally in their teens, and that device would begin injecting little magical, what we would call nanobots. That's the only word I can think of. It injects these little magic-infused nanobots into the user, and then those, over time, slowly begin transforming the recipient, into, it'll everything that he touches, it takes small bits, metals, rock, etc., and then it starts building the things that you naturally would know a Dragonborn to be. It builds essentially a small spray breath weapon. It builds tougher skin. It builds wings eventually for flight. And so that's sort of the flavor change for the Dragonborn. As far as stats go, they're still fairly well the same. But these days there are very few of them because of the fact that that technology is unknown to man anymore. They don't know how to make them again. And so anytime a Dragonborn wanders out of the tribes and goes adventuring and dies, they lose another one of these implants, which they can reuse if they have a hold of it, but there's so many lost that they're a very small tribe these days. So they are, for lack of a better word, mechanical cyborgs-ish, but Dragonborn as far as the rule set goes. Anything else, Tori, that I'm missing as far as the overarching, like the world and all that stuff, aside from the abilities we discussed earlier?
Unless you wanted to talk about the evolution of the plants.
Oh, yeah. There are, you will find, well, I mean, you're going to find a lot of new and homebrewed monsters and beings on this planet because of the fact that they didn't expect this world fire, since it's powered literally by magic, to be so vastly different from the light of their own sun. They didn't understand the differences there. And so the plants on this planet have run rampant. The light actually helps them grow a lot easier and faster. And so you'll find all sorts of strange different plants. In fact, one of the ways people get around is you can rent a balloon that's essentially a plant that grows up a thin stalk and then has a very large helium-filled balloon at the top. And there are farmers who farm these, and when you rent one, they just attach a cheap wicker basket to the bottom and cut it off and put you in the basket, and give you little ropes to try to hopefully be able to go where you actually want to go. There are also monsters that have part animal, part plant, just because it's the sun provides such nice energy from the chlorophyll. It's easier than hunting. But I think that's pretty much it. Essentially, lately things are going awry. Beasties that normally were not vicious, they were not hunters, are suddenly hunting animals or people in packs, and the ones that always did hunt, they're starting to kill for no reason, apparently. Nobody knows why it's happening, but there is obviously a general unrest in the beast population. They know something that you don't. So that's kind of where we start off as far as the world. Now, as far as Tori and I, as you know, we are going to be running, like a two-headed giant, sort of a DM scenario. And people ask, well, are you going to, one person DM one session, one person DM? No, we're going to do it more along the lines of when we're not in a session, we get together and we try to create good content for you guys. But then when we get into a session, it's essentially storyline, big, like I said earlier, that's the people we are, so that's the easier way to split it up, is if you have a question about the story, if you have a question about, what's around the next bend, if I go over this mountain, what do we see in the valley, I want to talk to such and such an NPC, what do they say, unless, of course, the NPC is a woman, in which case we might field that, because Jason and Jan, got it right, know exactly how good I do at women's voices. So that's the stuff that's going to be directed at me. But if it has to do with rulings, numbers, most combat is probably going to be run by Tori. I mean, we'll kind of talk, if she feels she's doing too much, then we'll talk about stuff. But most of the nitty-gritty, the rulings, if you think you might want to make a stealth check, but you don't know if it applies in such and such a situation, either ask Tori or send her a PM, because she will be fielding those questions the whole time, so that we can get storyline nice and smooth, and we can keep combat flowing, because since I don't have to be distracted by those things, I can keep that stuff going. And since she's only focusing on those things, we don't have to wait for 10 minutes at a time for a ruling, or wait for 10 minutes per round of combat or something like that. So what I'm hoping is that having the two of us around will not only have more stuff for you guys to do, since we'll be able to make it more, flesh out the world more, but also have all of that stuff run smoother. That is the hope. And we'll find out about a week from now. Tori, anything to add to that?
Nope.
Aside from your bad cop?
All I can imagine now is the good cop, bad cop from a Lego movie.
Thanks.
I got a question, James.
Yes.
With the picture that you posted, we all know that the world itself is hollow, but is it like on the inside?
Yes. Just like the picture, you crack it open, and everything's on the inner surface. Like it's spinning, and so like that force is holding everything.
Okay, so there's no like night. It's always pretty much daylight.
Well, no, that's what I was saying about the world fire. It's like this massive ball of fire, and then Mount Grochi was attached to it. So as it spins, the mountain shades the fire on one
He just forgot to put that in the picture.
I was kind of hoping that would eliminate vampires, but okay, so vampires will exist.
No luck there. But yes, it was that's one thing, one of the points of interest that Tori and I think that took us a little while to kind of go over. But what else was it? Oh, yeah. We should...
I just figured you'd have some big dude flipping on a light switch.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's big dudes up there. Because of the fact that the ray, like I was saying earlier, the rays of the world fire are magical and not mundane in nature. Certain animals have taken to, like elementals, they've taken to absorbing these rays, and so they live way up in the sky. And there are ridiculously powerful beings up there, and they live close to the world fire only because they can absorb the rays from it. And certain plant life that has gotten a little out of hand lives way, way up there and just kind of floats in the air, absorbing as much of the world fire's rays as possible. And of course, Mount Grochi is attached to the world fire, so we'll just have to see what lives in that. So there's a lot of, every once in a blue moon, one of these ridiculously powerful beasties comes down either to lay an egg or to hunt for, once every millennia or whatever, since they generally do it in the sky, but every once in a while they want to have fun. And those aren't fun days for the people nearby. Okay, so for the... and keep in mind, Tori and I have been working on these things, and they are generally here just to help people use certain, builds or character jobs or whatever you want to call it, if they want to. If you don't want to, do whatever you want. But I wanted people to have a few more options if they wanted to. So we have created few abilities and do you want to go over this, Tori?
Sure.
Okay. Do the yin and yang first.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So what you was saying about the roles, if you've played any MMO or any RPG, that parties are involved. You have, the tank role, the healing role, the DPS role, and such things. So we found that the healer role is somewhat undercut in D&D, especially 5th edition. So what we did is we added a healing cantrip. Yeah, so healing cantrips. It's everyone's dream, cleric's wildest dreams, and whatnot. However, there's cost. So the cost is karma. So karma exists in the world through two different spells, yin and yang, very typical. Yin is the healing spell. It works very similar to Healing Word, except it's a full round action. And we can post all the stats and stuff for you to look at. I think it's 1d4 plus your casting mod. So it's pretty powerful as a cantrip. However, every time you use it, you gain a karma point. those karma points add up. So if you use it every round for 5 rounds, you have 5 karma points. And at the end of combat, those 5 karma points will explode and something bad will happen. So, in relationship is the Yang spell, which is a damaging cantrip, which is a 1d12, and you get negative karma. And the idea is to even out yin and yang. And if you don't, bad things will happen. The whole point behind yin and yang, though, is that it's battle dependent. You have to be in the midst of battle. You cannot use them otherwise. If you drop out of initiative, you drop out of karma class. So only available in combat, which is why healing cantrips were kind of not used, because out of combat it would eliminate short rests.
Another thing to note is that the karma points are for the whole party. Like, multiple people can be casting the healing cantrip, and other people can be casting the damaging cantrip, like yin and yang. And at the end of combat, Tori and I will figure out where your karma number is at. And that number, we have one table to determine what happens to you guys based off of where that number's at, and another table that there's a possibility of it being rolled on, which sort of has sort of the flavor of the wild magic sorcerer. If you get high enough on the one table, you get a much higher chance of having to roll on this other karma table that all sorts of interesting bad things happen. The standard table is generally fairly straightforward damage type stuff, and we'll share that with you in a minute. But sorry, go ahead, Tori. I want to take over.
So Yin, the healing cantrip, is available only to divine casters. You have to take at least 3 levels in that divine caster in order to get it. So basically you have to be that's your main focus, is divine caster in order to get it. And then arcane casters get the Yang spell, the damaging cantrip. And again, it's the 3 levels. So the point around this is, if you spend one
question
point.
real quick, Tori. I'm sorry. If you take, let's say, an arcane trickster, they get level 3 spells after so many levels.
It does not count.
Go from there?
He's not a soul caster.
Yeah, it's full casters. It's going to apply to
Full casters. Okay.
druid, cleric, bard on the divine side, and then wizard, sorcerer, bard. So bard will actually have but it is. I mean, it's an action. So it's not like he's like this one on the same round. He has to take an actual action to balance himself out the next round if he wants to use both of them.
Okay. I'm sorry, Tori. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if you use 1 point, and at the end of combat you're 1 point, 2 points, it's not that big of a deal. You can probably handle it. In the positive or negative, if you get much more than that, shit will happen. So it's relying a lot on party communication, being together and working together as a team, and not just like, oh, look what I can do. I can be the best damager, whatnot.
I want to be the very best.
And also
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say it actually hinges on actually doing damage or points of healing. You can't say you want to cast a bunch of the big damaging cantrip. You then have to use the healing cantrip to balance it out, but you can't just heal the already full warrior and hold the last mob down near the end of combat to try to catch up before you drop out of combat and everyone dies. You have to actually have. It's going to be more of a balancing act than it sounds like, because the ruling is that you have to use it for a reason. You can't just simply cast a bunch of heals at the end of combat to hopefully catch up.
And if you cast something and you're like, oh, next round I'll totally cast the next one. Like if you're Bard, you can cast both of them. You're like, oh yeah, this round I'll cast yin, and then next round I'll cast yang, and it'll be fine. We have a slight chance, similar to Wild Magic Surge, where we will roll a die, and if it shows up that you proc, then we will roll on this second table to see if, you know, you will have negative effects, because you've changed the balance. So if the balance changes at all, positive or negative, even if its total is at 0 during a round, there will be a slight proc chance of something happening.
Yeah. Oh, also, because that's on a d20, similar to Wild Magic. If a 1 is rolled, then instead of waiting until the end of combat, whatever the number is at right then, that pops and the damage is taken. So you'll generally be able to try to kind of mash it back into, back down to 0 or at least close by the end of combat. But every once in a while, you're going to take a little hit in the middle of combat because, a 1 in 20 chance. But yeah.
Now, if that procs, does that resets to 0, or does it keep going from that count?
We didn't actually talk about that, but I think resetting it to 0, essentially from a balance perspective, as payment for you taking the freaking damage is probably the best way to go. Because it'll reset to 0. That's just not something we talked about, but it sounds about right.
Yep.
We also, there are certain things like we didn't talk about, and these are completely unplay tested, and we will, if the D12 on the damaging cantrip is way too much, then we might, change that, because it is one step up from the highest cantrip of a D10, I think. And the one thing we didn't talk about, Tori, what we might have to talk after the session or whatever, although people are going to want to know for building their characters, I guess, is the range, whether they have to be touch spells, especially the heal, or if they're going to get standard range. Because as far as balance, I'm not. I was originally thinking range. I know certain touch spells or certain heals are touch. And did they do away with all touch damage spells, or are those still in the game?
Those are still there.
No, there's still some.
They are? Okay. I just haven't seen anybody cast them for whatever reason.
Because casters don't like melee?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to, anyway.
It's awesome!
Mage hand, yang! Mage hand, yang! That's fun.
That's why you get your familiar.
Yeah, your familiar's going to get some horrible, horrible karma. Okay, I think we're going to keep it ranged, just because, seriously, with the we will post all of the exact rulings, but with all of those in mind, it's going to be hard enough to kind of balance without having to force casters into melee range to do it. As she said, we really just wanted to add this to give something that the party can use in combat to kind of work together, while at the same time allowing somebody to go full caster if they want to. Because if you run out of, and we don't want it to be like, every round I'm going to cast yin, and then hopefully the other guy's going to cast yang. That's why there's always a slight chance that something's just going to happen right then, to keep people from just that's the only thing they ever cast. And if, like we said, from a balance perspective, if it turns out that that's the only thing you ever cast because it's the only thing worth it, then it might need to be rebalanced. But there are enough negatives. In fact, Tori, could you read because since it doesn't matter if they know that, the standard side?
Yeah. So right now we have a 1 to 11. So this is positive or negative in either direction, whatever your absolute value is. So if you end up with 1 point of karma, it's very easy. Caster takes your damage equal to half the HP during combat. So if you used yin once and you healed someone for like 6, you'd take 3 damage at the end of combat. Very easy. If someone casted yin twice and another person casted yang, both of those casters would then total up the amount either healed or damaged, combine it, and then divide it. between the two of them, and then half it because it's 1 point. However, as you go up, second level, you would take the full healing / damage between the two of you, or however many casters there were. Number 3, both the casters and the recipients of the healing take all that damage. Number 4, caster falls to 0 at the end of combat. And then it just gets worse. At 11, the caster falls dead on the spot.
Like, when she says 11, it means no matter, it doesn't wait till the end of combat or wait till the end of round. If you have a real, like, party need to save the world reason to cast this 11 times in one combat, you're gonna die. Immediately, because it's pulling from this, otherworldly source of karma or whatever, and there's a lot of, could you explain this kind of psychic element to it? Or was that, my memory's that good, I don't remember if we tossed that out or not. It was from the Yang side, not the Yin side.
We tossed that out.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Anyway. Yeah, so it takes its toll, and eventually...
And when we say die, we don't just mean like you fall to 0 and you have to make death saves. We're talking about permanent character death instantly.
Yeah.
You're so evil. I knew it.
But I can't imagine the need in every single combat to use a cantrip that didn't exist before 11 times.
And not only that, but 11 times without a counter Yang.
Yeah, because you can cast it 10 times, and then somebody casts Yang 10 times, and you're back to 0, and everything's cool. As long as the D20 never hit 1 during that time. But... yeah.
Who's going to prove them wrong? I wouldn't see any real need for it. I mean, unless you're just completely tapped out on spells altogether, and it's all you got left. I mean, I'd really say.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's such a crapshoot that.
That is exactly the point.
It is there so that in a tough situation, you don't want to use your leveled spells or whatever, or maybe you're out of them, and you're at 0 on the karmic balance. So you cast your one thing, and either nothing happens if you have 1 or 2 karmic points, or it's not that big a deal because 1 yin and 1 yang will equal 0 anyway. But even 2 yins will be at most probably 12 healing, maybe 13, so you'll take 6 damage. It's not that big a deal unless you use it a lot, and then it can turn into a big deal. But, as we were discussing when we were making it, sometimes you have those crazy long fights with crazy powerful mobs, and your tank's about to go down, and you know beyond the shadow of doubt, not really, but that you're going to get something awesome for this fight, and you don't want to run, so you just cast that one more heal, and, leave it to the fates. So it's just there for that. On the other side of it, Tori, you can go ahead and talk about the warrior side.
Okay.
But the melee side.
Yeah. So on the melee side, we also did a battle magic. So all of this karma goes under battle magic. And we also created a battle magic for warriors and paladins because they get fighting style. So we added to the protection fighting style for those who want to be tank. So we have an official taunt. So the type where you roar at something, it makes a con save, and if they fail it, they have to charge you and attack you. So it's very much MMO style tanking. The old taunt was based on intelligence, which, if you're up against casters, it doesn't really work. So this one is a little more going along and meshing with what your character is built to be, which is a tank, and most of the stuff is based on constitution or strength. So the actual stats we will give you in a little blurb, but basically you roar at something. It does have a recharge time of 5 rounds, so you can't use it every round. And then once per long rest, you have an AoE taunt, which everything in a 30-foot radius has to make the save, any enemy. And if they fail it, they charge you. So that's very much damage soaking. If you want to be a tanky tank, that is what you go with.
So it's kind of like a upscaled compelled duel.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Paladins have the spell Compelled Duel at first level, so it's kind of like an upscaled Compelled Duel where that kind of forces them to attack you.
Yeah. It is, but it's not a it's not on a spell list, so it doesn't take slots. It is a timed thing. It has a 5-round recharge.
So you could potentially use it every combat.
Yeah, you
Nice.
could, possibly multiple times per combat if combat lasts a long time. But based on the D4 die roll and how long combat lasts, etc., it's more get that big thing off the mage because it's really bad versus this one mob's attacking the ranger or cleric or whoever's not in that much trouble, sort of thing. It's another situation where you could totally be a full tank, but it's just going to require a little more picking and choosing rather than everything's always on me because I'm the tank, sort of thing. Let's see.
So our reasoning behind all of this battle magic was first of all to create some things that were usable only in combat, which is not it's not a big thing in 5th edition other than like rage, and then you have to keep getting hit or keep hitting someone in order to remain in it. For us right now, it's as long as initiative is still there, you're still technically in combat for these specific things. It still doesn't apply to rage. Rage has normal rules. And we also wanted to give people who wanted to be certain roles actually be those certain roles, because 5th edition blurs the lines a lot, and sometimes people want to be that tank, want to be that healer, and some of the things in 5th edition kind of don't allow you to do that. I've heard a lot that 5th edition healers aren't mandatory. And it's like, okay, yeah, but as a DM, as co-DMs, we don't want to make fights where you're going to die because you don't have heals. So we're somewhat trying to incentivize, but also trying to give you guys something to work with if you actually do want to be a healer and not feel like totally useless, or want to be a tank and you're like, oh, now the thing's attacking the mage because the mage hit it. It's like, no, I have something to deal with that. So optimizing roles, essentially.
Yep. But as I said before, if you guys don't feel like dealing with it, it's no skin off my teeth. Play whatever you want. Obviously, I want you guys to have fun, and we will balance fights accordingly. So,
Of course.
that being said, does anyone have questions about these 4 abilities? I guess it was 4.
For the mass taunt,
Nope.
I was wondering if you would be able to amplify that using the cantrip that what is it? The one that makes you roar louder. So wouldn't that increase the radius?
Oh, like a prestidigitation, not prestidigitation, thaumaturgy.
Thaumaturgy, yeah, that one. So you use thaumaturgy before the person taunts, and then he does it.
If you use, I won't increase the range, but I like party synergy like that, and so we can knock the DC up by a point or 2 or something, something like that. The range, that's set based off of standard movement speed, etc. Standard casting range, and so I didn't want to really go above that. But
Well, plus, pretty much anything that can hear the taunt is vulnerable to the taunt.
Yeah, which is why that's why I was like, would thaumaturgy make everybody hear it? Because it'd be like even further range.
Well, the thing with Mass Taunt is that that's a great ability, but as anyone who's ever tanked an MMO knows, it can also be a horrible ability because you don't know who's behind all the walls. And so shouting so that everything that can hear must come in the room and attack you could be bad. Who knows? We'll see.
The boss at the end of the dungeon and the mini-boss that you're about to get to, well, they're all coming right now.
And all the mobs in between.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
that's why we wanted to have abilities that were
Useful but not overpowered.
but yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty OP for certain situations, but it also turns it into something that is badass, like epic moment style ability, but I probably shouldn't use it in all the moments that aren't epic because it's going to turn them into overly epic moments that I didn't want. So, yeah. Any other questions for those abilities?
The only thing I would think of is your mass taunt on there. You might want to try throwing, just a suggestion, throw like a range on that. I mean, because like
we do
Thunderclap
have
goes out to like 300 feet or other stuff like that, so.
Yeah, no, we'll...
I think it's 30 feet right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, I was just looking at the blurb that you guys linked on here. It really didn't say a range. So that's what
yeah,
I
I copied that from our notes. I haven't really...
Well, it's all good.
I mean, it might increase only because maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, anything else? Like I said, these are, not really play tested yet, obviously. And so they might need rebalancing. And I want to, but I'm not promising, I want to add more of what we were calling battle magic, essentially spells that are only available, spells or abilities that are only available when you're in battle, when you're under turn order. But we'll see. We'll see how the thing starts out. These are just things that we wanted to add at the very beginning to give options to you guys for, builds or whatever. That being said, the world being introduced, the DMs being introduced, etc. I will turn the floor over to everyone but myself and Tori, since we have really very little say in what you guys do on this side, for you guys to talk about what you want to do for characters. If you guys have questions for backstory type stuff, we'll leave that after. Right now, I just want you guys to be able to get a hold of kind of roles you want to fill, classes you want to play, even if it's just for flavor's sake. I enjoy, characters that are played for character's sake, and, might not be optimized for the group, but obviously you guys want to survive fights too, so I will leave that to you guys. And
Well, I got a question, James. Since
Sure.
we're pretty much like in outer space, do we have like angelic and demonic creatures in the world?
yes.
Since deities exist in different planes, their planes haven't moved. It's just, they exist where they are.
Yeah.
And they don't really care what worlds their people are living in. It's like, oh, you're on a spaceship 5,000 miles away. We don't care. It's you pray to us. We like you.
All right, so I guess we probably should start discussing party roles.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Oh, it sounds like Brock's got his pally. Tank.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Second. I like the assassin rogue idea.
Okay. Anybody
I
else?
was going for the cleric war domain, but starting with the heavy armor feat, heavy armor master feat, which can reduce the damage taken by 3, as long as I'm wearing heavy armor, of course. So it's I'm gonna go in the front with a tank. But, of course, he's probably going to be taking most of the damage. I guess he's going to be taunting and all that stuff. While I'm in the front with him, dishing a little bit of damage, buffing and debuffing the enemy. And, like I said, a little bit of healing. But now, since we have the yin and the yang, it's going to be helpful too, right?
Yep.
Good idea.
I think I should have mine imported down. If you can link it to me, that'd be awesome. Just throw my name as one of the people that can see and edit it.
Yeah.
Who's speaking?
Oh, there it is. Thanks. No, already done.
Fred or Jason?
I'm planning on going through the as a ranger, taking the sharpshooter's feat also, so I can just ignore cover and just start sniping people from the back. That's my plan on making my character.
Do you know what you're doing, Jason?
Actually, I thought of the same exact thing Fred did.
Oh.
Oh, shit.
I don't see a problem with having 2 of them.
Nor do I. So the only thing we don't really have then is a true healer or a caster.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
I
We're
can
good
change
for
over to Arcane Trickster if need be, but that's really a stopgap. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we have the 2 upfront melee guys, the Pally's pretty self-sustaining. We have the new healing cantrip. I think we could easily go with an actual caster. That or something like a bard. Where we can do a little bit of back and forth.
You know what? The bardic
yeah.
inspiration is always good.
Yep.
Bard is the shit. And he's a caster. I think, depending on how you build him, he can actually be a little OP too.
Yeah, and he can get both the yin and the yang, so that could really add some fun to our karma.
Well, not only that, I think one of the original campaigns I ran in 5th, somebody played a bard that was like throwing darts with the sharpshooter feat, plus something else he was casting on. So, I mean, like first 2 levels, he was getting a ridiculous amount of damage at the early game.
Yep. So I'll probably go bard, and I'll focus a little more on the spell damage with him, though. But that way I can still back up heals.
Cool.
All right, that's a good idea. That's a great idea.
What are you doing, Jake, again? Oh, you're doing Ranger.
Yep. Infrared.
And Gilbert's Cleric?
Again? Gilbert? Well, you know what, James? I'm
You're
going
a
to
cleric?
Oh, sorry, I need to check.
Cleric?
Well, Cleric War Domain.
Okay, at least that's okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, so what do we got again? Wesley.
I will be a bard.
Brock. Pally.
Paladin.
Ranger. Jason. Ranger. Fred. War Domain Cleric. Don and Shane.
I'm a rogue.
Okay, Rogue, the assassin. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys are good to go, I think. Races.
Human.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
halfling stoutfoot,
Oh, yeah.
which kind of fucks everything up because I lose my sprint ability because, I'm half size, but I gain everything else when it comes down to, ability scores. So,
What do you mean you lose your sprint ability?
well, I'm half size. I mean, I'm small size at that point. So, I still have the sprint ability. It's just I don't have the advantage that like an elf would have.
But you know what? What's good about the rogue? You got a cunning action. You can use a cunning action to do a dash for free.
Well, I get the Constitution bonus from being a stout, which is nice because I'm a rogue at this point in time, and quite frankly, I mean it's a really squishy class if you're not in and out all the time. That's the problem. So that's what I'm thinking as of right now, but I'm open to suggestions.
I wouldn't worry too much about Constitution because if you're playing it right, you should rarely ever get.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm saying I wouldn't worry so much about the Constitution on a rogue because if you're using your stealth and your flanking and stuff, you should probably rarely get hit.
This is true. I mean, I could go high elf if I wanted to and get the bow proficiency, that longbow proficiency, which would be great. And I think you get low light out of that. But more so than anything else, I mean, it's.
What race?
I don't know.
You're also playing in a campaign where you are going to have people that can literally tank for you, in a situation where you need to get in there and stabby. Sneak attacks will actually be a lot easier for you.
But then I want to play. Yeah, I want to play halfling then.
That's cool.
Sounds
good.
Like I said.
Well, it's role play wise, whatever you want to play, right? What do you feel like playing? I mean,
Yeah.
the race is going to change something, right? I mean, the dwarf's going to be drinking while the halflings can be, I don't know, running away from people. But it's whatever you want to play.
Yeah.
True.
Wesley?
I will be a variant human.
Okay. Not a surprise. That's a very popular one. Brock?
I was going with the variant human myself, actually.
Feats all around. Jake?
Same.
Meta gamers, all of you. Meta gamers.
Yeah, variant human.
Nice. Fred?
I mean, I could be a gnome paladin. That'd be fucking interesting, but
So, in other words, Shane, you're the only non-human group. That's fantastic.
Well, I don't want to play a variant human. I wanted to play an actual real campaign. So I'm gonna be the halfling. I like that.
That's cool.
Sounds great. I have no problem with it.
I'm racist.
James,
Okay.
check your
I could
Skype.
drop the feet and play like a Dragonborn or something, I guess, or
The Dragonborn are an interesting lot in this campaign.
open up like if you're using the elemental evil, like a pot like the genocide or something.
If you go Dragonborn, I'd be tempted to switch over to Gnome just so I could try tinkering with you.
We do not have elemental evil races.
Okay.
Like the flying bird things? Yeah, way too overpowered.
Well, the flight actually is not that overpowered.
Those things
when
are
you go-
awesome. Can you imagine that as an assassin?
Well, it's not so much
Hurts.
that as the fact is, I mean, they're not that durable. I mean, the guys can fly, but if you get with any kind of range, just a simple sleep spell, I mean, the fall damage alone will kill you and you're done.
Fair enough.
If we're talking about assassin races, though, you want to go with the changelings.
Yeah.
No, well, it doesn't matter. If you're an assassin, you get proficiency at level 7 to go ahead and disguise and everything else. I mean, that's pretty damn decent.
Yeah, but being able to at will just change into someone just because you saw them is.
I agree. That's fucking awesome.
What is it? The forest gnome that starts the game with minor illusion.
Oh, fuck that! I'm not doing that.
I'm just saying, if you
I
want to
think
assassin,
it's clear on the subject. He's not gonna fucking do that.
smart uses of the minor illusion spell can make for some nice assassination attempts.
Not gonna happen. Can you? Okay, I don't know if you guys
know.
but fucking, I grew up with David the Gnome. Can you imagine David the Gnome stalking somebody and fucking murdering them in cold blood?
Yes, I
That's
can.
just shit.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can.
this is
That would be
innocent.
awesome.
That's a cosplay shit that needs to happen.
I'm not short enough. I'm sorry.
And the fox.
Chicken.
That would make a very poor gnome at
Yeah, this guy's like tiefling height over here.
At 6.5 feet. I don't think gnome is really in my repertoire. Okay, so everybody has their.
How did you want us to go about rolling these stats?
We're gonna go player by player, just sort of keep it. So I'll say, go ahead and roll, and then I'll have like 500. Tori, we're gonna use your method. Well, not your method, but the method that.
Yeah, I totally made it up. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Nobody else has ever done that. Shut up.
All right, so the exact method is 4d61. Reroll anything below an 8, not including an 8, and then after everything is above an 8, or after everything is an 8 or above, you reroll your lowest stat, take the higher of the two.
Wesley is who we're going to start with, since he is. We're going to go in the same order as when we did character introductions.
Brackets.
Not parentheses, brackets.
I think he was just typing it so we'd have it.
Wear braces.
Let's give it a try.
Off to a good start.
All right.
You can just press up to get your last message.
Oops. There we go.
Okay. All right, not too shabby.
4.
Come on.
Well played, sir.
Are we doing exactly my method?
Yeah, we might as well, because I don't want. Yeah, that's
All right, reroll your lowest, and take the higher of the two. Nice. +1.
okay. Brock.
I'll reroll one of them.
Oh, that kind of suck balls.
Oh, what's up with the 6?
So you get to reroll the 6 automatically, and then
Okay,
you
the
get to
6 is
reroll
now
your
a
lowest.
10. Ugh, oh lord. Reroll the 9 again.
Not
That's
bad.
not bad at all, dude.
That ain't bad then.
16, 3 15s, 12, and 10.
That's really good.
Yeah, that ain't bad at all.
This method definitely introduces above average characters, but
Yes.
You just said to use my system, so.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
And Tori, I've noticed that you're drinking Four Loco. Good choice of a drink.
She wants to stay awake while she gets plastered.
I think they actually took out the caffeine part of it.
Yeah, they took out a bunch of shit. I don't know, not all of the caffeine, but like the guarana and ginseng.
Yeah, they took out a lot because people will be passing out all over the place.
A bunch of people died, so yeah.
What is this, an Asian subway? Come on.
That's racist. I don't care.
Who's next?
Jake's next.
What?
Dang it, Jason is next. I'm going to rename all your crap on Skype so that I actually call you by your correct character name.
But you know what, James? I made it easy for you. The name of my character still ends with a bird.
That's not. That's worse. I'm still going to call you Gilbert.
Oh, fuck.
I will not call you Gilbert.
You'll
I'll
have
probably call people by their actual name.
You'll have one DM calling you by your character name and one calling you by your real name. Well, go ahead, roll that lowest one. Poor Jason with his low rolls. You know, actually, I think Valinor's would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does have that 16 and 2 15s.
Three
315s actually.
315s and a 16. He can drop those in main stat. Yeah, he's good to go.
Yeah, I'm not arguing at all. That's probably the best I've ever rolled on roll 20.
Yeah.
He usually bends me over pretty hard.
All right, Fred, get bent.
Oh.
Dang.
Oh. Oh.
You guys took all my luck.
Who
You
runs
have a 9, 10,
Bonatown?
10, 11, 16. Wait, no, you missed one.
It's like
Roll-
you
roll your
are
lowest.
average.
I mean, he can re-roll the 8. There.
Wow.
9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 16. Aw.
Ugh.
You're stronger than the shopkeep?
Now, do you re-roll? Is it just below 8s that you re-rolled?
Yeah, below.
Oh man, it got you bad on that one.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Hey, you're above 10 on pretty much everything at least. You're at 10 or above, so you're still above just a common.
That's one
I
line.
would like to
Yeah.
put forth a vote.
You just call
of
the 8 a
reroll.
dump stat.
Well, he doesn't even have an 8 though now.
No, it was a 9. But it's still a dump
Well, call the 9 a dump stat. That's
It's
even better.
negative.
I want to submit a vote of reroll for Fred there because
Yeah.
that hurts.
It's
No, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'll allow it. So long
It
as
doesn't bother me. I mean, if the DMs are cool with it, I'm alright with it.
Tori,
Fine by me.
what do you think, Tori?
See, I'm always the
So-
other person, though.
What
Well,
up, bad cop?
we're supposed to be legends. Legends.
Hey, that's the thing. Legends are not born; they're made.
Of the
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what you do with it.
True, he does
Okay.
have a 16.
Bad cop rules. No rerolls.
Alright.
Yeah.
Well, we know what his dexterity is going with.
Yeah.
Just stay out of the combat. Whatever you do, stay back.
I'm literally playing the sniper role.
That's right, my bard will stand next to you.
Gilbert.
Once again, thanks, James.
Oh, oops.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
Good God.
Ooh. So do I get to reroll my 10? Okay, I'll
Yep.
reroll 10.
Nice.
God
Ow.
damn, son.
If you see my character flexing for no reason, it's okay.
I think we should shuffle Fred's and Jan's dice. And
I'd be okay with it, honestly. Wow. I've never had that much stat before.
So, what do you want to multi-class into? Because you can go everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
Jane,
absolutely.
I think ingenuity will take you further than stats a lot of the times. Especially in 5th.
Wow.
Right, my turn, I guess.
Yep.
Wow.
You got outclassed by everybody.
That's not fucking bad.
I re-rolled at 11. It's too low.
All right.
2 16s, wow.
Hey, that's how you do it. That's why I have leather-bound books. Mahogany, bitches.
Wow. Mahogany, huh?
Oh.
Who hasn't gone yet?
I think that's it.
That's it? Okay.
Me and you. We need to roll for DM stats.
Roll low, roll low.
Oh, look, Jan's one to give up some stat points.
Everybody.
Wow. 18, 16, 16.
I'll be right back.
That's pretty impressive.
Ridiculous.
Hey, 5d6. That's wrong.
I'm a DM, I can do it.
I'm a DM, damn it.
Oh, she is the best
Jeez,
cop.
Tori.
All right. Am I safe to take a smoke break while we do this?
Safe.
What's up with the roll hacks? Okay, now how do I roll all as one block like that?
Put
Double
on-
bracket?
You just bracket on both sides of each of them, then just keep doing it each time.
So double brackets, roll.
46 D1 double
No,
bracket.
no roll. No roll. Just 4d6, d1.
Yep.
Really?
Then just go straight into your next double bracket right after it, and you can just keep doing it over and over.
Copy and paste.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hacks.
Wait, a 22.
She rolled 5 dice.
Oh my God, I was
6. Okay, all your shit was 5d6. Mine was legit. Look at that shit.
I
I'm
can
gonna
re-roll
re-roll my
all five. Yeah, there's not even a drop lowest one on that one. It's just, I'm just taking 5d6. We'll call it good.
4d6, d1. I gotta drop my. And take the higher of the two.
That
13.
bad 13 and to get a
Oh, well.
11.
Nope. Take the higher of the two, you said.
You know what, Shane? The roll that you made, that you got 18, you actually get 4, 6 across.
Yeah, I know. There's no,
It
there's
didn't
no
even
need.
drop. Yeah, it didn't even drop a dice. It's like, hey, just call it and fuck it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm looking at it right now with my half bonus. I get the 20 to start. That's great.
It's okay.
Well, I mean, that's the highest you'll ever go, so it's.
Oh yeah,
it's
I know. I'm going to go ahead and do other things with it, but that's fucking amazing. I mean, that's not bad for a roll.
But not bad. It's the highest
Starting as a legitimate healer. I mean, you're starting as a legitimate hero. What can you say?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You are.
I have a
God amongst
22, so.
You know, I'm not even gonna argue that because I'm sure if I rolled 5d6, I'd get like a 6.
All right. Good cop, bad cop had a discussion behind the scenes. You can go ahead and re-roll, Fred.
All right.
We came to an accord.
Fred's probably sitting there. He's like, you know what? No, the hell with that. I'm sticking with this.
We came to an accord. Bad things will happen to you.
You have a second chance to life. Don't screw it up.
This is karma starting right now.
Okay, so we just took what is this? 6 rolls? 6 points of karma?
3, 4, 5. And
You have the worst fucking luck I've ever seen anybody ever
That's
have.
a lot better than before, though.
That's a good character.
Well, that's
Yeah.
not too bad.
It's not bad, though.
It's better.
16, 15,
It-
12,
yeah, it's
12,
better.
11, 11.
Yeah,
Reroll the 9.
that's a
Oh,
lot
you did.
closer
I did.
to.
Yeah, it's a 16. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks solid.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's a lot better
That's
than
good.
before.
That's good.
Yeah, that's actually fairly close to a point by character.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all.
Okay. Any other questions while you guys kind of get through your characters?
Yeah. Equipment wise, what
Mhm.
do we start with?
It's in the book. You can just.
Rolls rolled and equipment.
Okay. So
Okay,
just
just straight up starting gold starting gold as like a level 1 character, but we just go to level 3 to start with.
Yeah. If we'll have Tori and I will have conversations if we need to add loot. We'll be doing some more kind of where things are starting work throughout this week. So if we have stuff to add next week, we will. Otherwise, just plan to start with your starting stuff. I'm pretty sure we're just going to start with starting stuff because of kind of where you're starting. So that would be probably easy.
And I'm assuming we're like in the city, so we can do the basic cost to buy instead.
What?
Like take the 4d10 gold and buy equipment equivalent.
Oh, yeah, yum. I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, just wanted to verify.
The only other option would be for us to give you an exact set of equipment based off of your current job, but I'm not going to go that messy.
Should we give them intro about the town so they can make their backstories?
Yeah, we do that, I guess, while everybody's kind of waking. This is the world. It's the same map, just with political borders added and the country names added in. We have a few towns over here added in just because they're local to you and you will definitely know about them. I will give a quick rundown of as much as I can remember about what we talked about with each of the countries and just the general information because it's what your characters would know. Up here in the very top, this little red guy right here, that's Tiefling country. The center of the planet, of the orb where it spins, they actually built the sphere a little bit squished, like just a little bit like a hamburger. And so the equator is actually frozen, and the poles, being closer to the world fire, and constantly at the very tip of the poles, constantly
Boiling.
what?
Boiling.
What's the word I'm looking for?
it's always sunny, so it's perfect outside.
It's always sunny
The poles are always boiling.
in Tiefling Delphia. Yeah, the poles, the northernmost and southernmost reaches of land, the deserts there are so hot. I mean, the very tips of them are actually glass, like the sand is turned into glass, and the water boils immediately. And so Tieflings live up there because apparently they like it. And then just south of that, when it gets into just super hot deserts, you have two warring orc nations that have taken over this island up here. The nation is Drog and Bergrog. We don't know what that means, but it was fun to say. Just here, this little island has been actually taken over by an independent nation of pirates, this little peninsula known as Palos. And they and the orcs tend to send out vessels down to these neighboring nations here and ransack. Eden, as mentioned earlier, was where the creep of civilization for this world originally began. And then they found out really quick that things were way too hot there and they had to move down here into what's called New Eden. So if you go to Eden, you will find no civilizations because the races of man can't live in those temperatures, aside from the aforementioned tieflings, which I guess isn't really a race of man. But you will find what's left, the ruins of the original Eden, the original colonies. And so there are people who trek into Eden to try to survive its wilds for just long enough to raid the old colonies and see if they can find any little trinkets or goodies. Elodar here is a nation founded and chiefly run by the major religions of the world. It is a very religious-centric country, and if you don't worship one of the standard deities of the world, you will not get along with these people very well. For the most part, I mean, that's that's their capital cities, their larger cities. Some of the smaller towns aren't, maybe don't quite share that opinion. Felicity is actually, what did we see? They're kind of the hippies of this world. They're Ova's hippies. There are a lot of gnomes and halflings here. And I mean, it's not run by them or whatever. There is no real central government here. It's a bunch of hippies who just kind of, sit on the hill and, grow stuff and smoke stuff and just kind of hang out and life's good, man. And for some reason, people haven't completely obliterated them yet. Maybe they're just so nice that people just like, okay, just give them their crappy spot of land. Most of their country is actually frozen mountains and glaciers, so... Galgalar. This is dwarf territory. Early on they actually excavated and took over. This is one of the only arable and of decent climate mountain ranges on the planet, and so they took this over fairly quickly. And this is kind of their area. Vislaris is made up of most all races, but they are like a highly warlike nation led by a dictator they're constantly trying to take over more and more bits of Aladar and Victory. Speaking of Victory, they couldn't stand originally when New Eden landed and things went wrong with the beasts and the dragons. The people of New Eden blamed it on magic and tried to outlaw it. It's not outlawed in New Eden anymore, but there's a general distaste for it. And so Victory, original settlers of this area, decided to get as far away from that as possible. And it is actually now a magocracy, or it is led by the most powerful mages. The more power you have, the higher seat you have in their government. So it is a very magic-centric area. This place, which I still don't know the pronunciation of, that's all on Tory, is home of the Drow. No one can live on the southern island because of the heat, but the Drow have created subterranean towns and civilizations in this area down under the crust, at least far enough to where it's cool enough for them to thrive. Also, this small island bit is where the original experiments went on to create what is now known as the Dragonborn. And it is called Machinus Rex. And it is, the Dragonborn still populate this area, the ones that remain true to their tribe. Those that leave the island, whether for riches or for the call for adventuring, are generally either have been cast out or they are running away from the tribe because it's a cardinal sin to leave the tribe, because they know that everyone that dies outside the tribe is going to lessen their number by one. So if you play as Dragonborn, part of your backstory kind of has to be how did you get away from your tribe and why did you run away from your tribe? Because they're never going to let you back. Probably. And, they might even try to find you one day to get their implant back. But anyway, okay, so those are the areas. I will try to zoom in a little bit here on Utopia, which is the country where you are starting out. Utopia. This entire big area here used to be all New Eden. The people of Utopia decided that the regime, or the central government, whatever, they didn't like the oppression. They didn't go quite so far as the people of Victory, but they did want a split, and so a civil war went on for quite some time, and they finally won their freedom. And so you'll find that as you travel around and discover more of this area, that most of these towns and areas actually bear a name that sort of gives that impression. Serenity is actually their capital city. It's actually nestled in this fairly fertile plains here, and then just here is a very large river system. Paradise Falls is a coastal sort of trading outlet, and then you come in here a little further, and where some of these rivers connect, you find a small town called Foster's Crossing. And that is where our game starts. Due to the unrest of the animals and some of the beasts attacking and things getting out of hand, a lot of fear has crept up in some of these smaller towns. And so they didn't used to have a town guard. They never needed one. But they now have sent out a call for able-bodied men and women to come to their aid, and they will pay good money. And so you start as a town guard who's been recruited fairly recently. Enough time to gain 3 levels. But you haven't known each other a heck of a long time, unless, of course, you decide that your backstories intertwine before you got to Foster's Crossing. You know, maybe one or more of you actually grew up in Foster's Crossing. This town is actually a trade hub. There are, a few rivers that kind of intersect here. The town sits on top of that, and essentially the main trade is buying things from certain vessels, selling it to other vessels, and that's just it. Just trade, trade, trade. So you are there to protect the town, protect Utopia, and in the long run, hopefully, protect Oba. The rest of A World Within Session 0 was spent adding stats to character sheets, creating spell macros, and generally staring at individual computer screens with a lot of radio silence. So we're going to go ahead and cut this video off here. However, make sure and keep an eye out for more of A World Within. Specifically, next week you'll find Session 1. It'll be the official start to our Intrepid Heroes adventures. Although, if you're watching this from the future, it's already there. By the way, if you are, make sure and put a comment below with this week's lottery numbers so that I can be a millionaire. I'm pretty sure that's how the internet works. Anyway, you can be sure never to miss an episode by just subscribing to this channel. Good night and good gaming. Oh, one last thing. For the best rolls, make sure and keep only the highest quality book bindings on hand.
That's how you do it! That's why I have leather-bound books. Mahogany, bitches.
Okay.